There are few breakout directors of the 2010s that are as well regarded as Damien Chazelle is. While Chazelle's first feature, Guy and Madeline on a Park Bench, is damn near impossible to get a hold of in the UK, his second feature, Whiplash, is probably one of the most critically acclaimed films of the decade so far, and his follow-up to that, La La Land, managed to be an equally huge critical success while being a major hit with mainstream cinema goers. So when it was announced that Chazelle's next feature was going to be a Neil Armstrong biopic, something that on the surface seems a little less ambitious than his previous films, I was interested to see what he would do with the material, and I'm pleased to report that I'm not disappointed. Now this is a big budget American film, and very much comes with the baggage that besets most films of this type. It can feel a tad melodramatic in parts, and it's not always very subtle, but the film more than makes up for that by just how amazingly well made it is, and the star of the film is incontrovertibly the flight sequences. There's such an intense realism to them, and Chazelle completely traps you in the moment. When most people think of spaceflight, they'd picture the vast openness of the cosmos, but Chazelle decided to show us the opposite, and instead focuses on the sheer claustrophobia of being trapped in a tiny little rocket made of shaky material, which you could barely see out of. These scenes are amazing, and alone are worth the price of admission. In fact, the portrayal of the space program throughout the whole film is fantastic. You get a real sense of not only the massive dangers that the astronauts faced, but the fact that a lot of the progress that was made on the American space program in the 1960s was done through essentially trial and error. And the film also takes a lot of time to show the psychological effect this has on both the astronauts and their families. And Claire Foy absolutely shines in conveying this as Janet Armstrong. I know Oscar season has just started and there are still a lot of films to be released, but I would bet money on her winning either Best Actress or Best Supporting Actress depending on what she's put in for. She manages to say so much even when she's not speaking, and I really hope she gets a lot more big roles after this. Ryan Gosling is as good as ever, and I really love the way we see Armstrong's character develop between the years of 1961 and 1969 in a way that's noticeable and really well performed, but that doesn't draw too much attention to it. But Claire Foy is undoubtedly the showstopper here. The film attempts to show more than just a space program, however, and a good deal of time is spent focusing on Neil's family life. I really appreciate that these scenes were filmed with a lot more grit than most Hollywood movies, largely using a handheld camera combined with the fact that the film is shot using celluloid. And towards the end of the film, when his family are having to grapple with the fact that Neil is going to the moon and might not be coming back, there's a real emotional weight to these scenes. But at other times it can feel like they're beating you over the head with emotion. For example, there's a scene when Neil is playing with his children and it's just so over the top happy and it's so obvious what they're trying to get you to feel that I really couldn't do anything but roll my eyes. But heyo, I guess that's just part of the occasional lack of subtlety that I was talking about. Despite this, however, the film is definitely worth seeing on the biggest screen you can. I saw this in my favourite cinema, and even still I'm regretting not going to the IMAX for it. This is an incredibly well-made and intense movie that I'm sure will be nominated for a bunch of awards for its acting, directing, and production design, and I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Also, I'm genuinely amazed Chazelle didn't sneak some jazz into this movie somewhere. That was probably the biggest surprise of all.